Hello guys and gals, friends and family. This is just an introduction to our vlog on the Piper family, a family of 3 living in an RV. We have just recently moved from Houston, Texas to Flagstaff, Arizona, and this is a little background on how we ended up living full-time in an RV. First, it should be noted that we are actually a family of 5, not 3. However, there will only be 3 of us living full-time in our RV. Our oldest son, Grayson, is finishing up his first year in college and lives on campus full-time. Our only daughter, Brett, is about to start her senior year, and we knew it would be very difficult for her to move 2 states away in such an important time in her life. So thankfully, her aunt, my sister, graciously opened her home so that Brett could continue school in Houston. So that leaves me, my husband, Greg, and our youngest son, Payne, who just turned 9. So, how did we decide on becoming full-time RVers, you may ask? Well, here's the story. My husband has worked in the hotel industry as a maintenance engineer for the past 10 years or so. I have been a teacher for 13 years, and for the past 9 years, I have worked at the same school as an 8th grade CTE teacher. CTE meaning Career Technology Education. I have taught college and careers, professional communications, as well as business information management. I love my job. I love 8th grade, I love what I teach, and I love my coworkers and administrative team. So when Greg was offered a position as a maintenance engineer in Flagstaff, I was not so willing to resign, at least not until we were actually positive on uprooting our lives westward. However, the salary offered to Greg was not something to walk away from easily. We thought about all the options and decided on having Greg to move first to Flagstaff alone, and then the kids and I finishing out the school year. And if things went well for Greg and Flagstaff was a place that we felt would be a good fit for our family, then we would follow him to Arizona. So how did an RV actually come into play? Well, Greg's father really stepped up to help us out on this one. He allowed Greg to use his RV to live in, which helped in 2 ways. First, we didn't have to sign a lease anywhere, so if this situation ended up being a no-go, we wouldn't have to break any contracts. Second, it would save a ton of money on living expenses, as it is significantly cheaper to stay in an RV park than to live in an apartment or a house. We have actually used the same RV a couple of times. We took RV family vacations back in the summers of 2019 and 2020. We had a blast and our kids really took to the RVing lifestyle. We traveled through New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado, visited the Grand Canyon, Carlsbad Caverns, as well as numerous places along Route 66. Also, it should be noted that Greg and I lived in New Mexico at 2 different times in our married life. Our 2 oldest children were actually born in Albuquerque, so we were somewhat familiar to both RVing as well as living in the Southwest region. However, Flagstaff is definitely different from any other place we've lived. All 4 seasons are in full bloom there, and a big difference is that it snows. Even in New Mexico, we didn't really deal with much snow, and in Houston, well, it rarely snows. In fact, you're usually dealing with ice storms in the winter, and that's not every winter. Hurricanes, yep. Crazy thunderstorms, yep, but you're not shoveling snow from your driveway to get to work. And on the off chance that it actually does snow in Houston, it's usually accompanied with ice, which means staying at home and off the roads, as most Houstonians have no idea how to drive safely in icy conditions. So now we had a plan, albeit it wasn't an easy plan. Greg left at the end of October 2023, and so now I was immediately a single working mom. We spent the holidays without his presence, so that was very difficult. We briefly saw him in January, but actually under sad circumstances, as it was for attending my father's funeral after his sudden death, and that was just for a couple of days. But by March, we were certain that we would be joining him in June, and we started making plans for this new future. The main part of this plan was that we decided on living in the RV full-time for the next 9 to 12 months. This was going to help us save a lot of money, as well as give us some time to find a new home, maybe even a forever home. During this time, Greg had lived at no less than 3 different RV site locations. RV sites are all very different. Some offer tons of extras. Some are more for traveling workers, so basically it's just a place to park your home and not really have any other outside activities. And then there are the sites that really cater to families. They might have a pool, maybe a playground. They host family events. They might have a movie night or a concert, things of that nature. When we decided that this was a for sure thing, Greg did a lot of research and decided on Village Camp Outdoor Resort as a good fit for our family. And more about Village Camp in another video. So the wheels began to turn, and unfortunately I was left with the main responsibility of the move, as I was the one in Houston. And talk about crazy. Besides giving birth, this was by far the biggest obstacle I've ever been through in my life. Okay, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I promise you it was definitely challenging. First, we had to do a lot of downsizing. We had accumulated many material things in our 24 years of marriage, so we had to decide what we could live without and what was essential. Then, out of those essentials, what would transition to the RV and what would go into storage. Packing began, which most anybody that's ever been through a move knows how tedious and time-consuming that is. I began a garage sale as well as posting items for sale on Nextdoor and Facebook Marketplace. What was left over that we still did not need or want was donated via the Veterans Voice of America and to some clothing, shoes, and toy donation sites. Then it was setting up a storage unit and setting up the movers. It took a day to actually do the moving, which I was surprised and happy about. 2 men in a truck really pulled through for us. We stayed with my sister for 3 weeks until Greg could have the time off to come back to Texas and help us get to Flagstaff. She took us to Gulf Shores, Alabama, which was so nice and relaxing after having virtually lived in a box-filled home for the past couple of months. So I definitely want to give a big shout out to my little sis for not only the vacation, but for also putting up with us in her home. Oh, did I mention that we also have 3 cats? Yeah, 3. 2 transitioned with us to Flagstaff and 1 is staying with Brett and my sister. So seriously, my sister definitely is helping us out. So now here we are in Arizona. We have only been here less than 2 weeks, and I have spent a majority of that time turning the RV into a relaxing home. Poor Greg, he definitely is a clean person, but he's not much on decorating, so we kind of walked into what felt like a bachelor pad on wheels. But I'm actually kind of grateful for that because I like to decorate, and I've had quite a blast transforming the RV, and I'm still working on it, as I would like to also have an outside eating, relaxing area too. Because unlike in Houston during the summer, in Flagstaff you can actually eat outside and not sweat and get attacked by mosquitoes. And while Greg may be lacking on the decorating issues, he definitely is great at handyman work. The man can pretty much fix anything that needs fixing, and he's great at troubleshooting issues as well as maintaining and keeping the RV working at its best. The scenery has definitely been the best part of this move so far. Sometimes I pinch myself because I can't believe that I'm waking up to beautiful mountain views, soft breezes, and nice 75 to 85 degree temperatures. Things aren't perfect, obviously. Leaving a great job was a big bummer for me. Like I stated before, I really loved where I worked. And then, besides the fact that we're having to accustom ourselves to a much smaller living space, we also have 2 precious children now located 2 states away, as well as the rest of our family on both Greg's and my sides. That is definitely going to take some getting used to, if we ever really will get used to it. I think it's more of just accepting it and then doing what we can to visit as often as we can. So this is our story. I hope to learn a lot from this experience, and that it will be a time that I will always treasure in my life, and that we will be able to create many good memories from this adventure. I do plan on working, and Payne is already enrolled in a new school. Those will both be big changes for us as well. But so far, we are really loving the way this has turned out, and we hope that you will enjoy seeing some of the awesome and maybe not so awesome aspects of the RVing lifestyle. Happy trails to you all.